My narcissistic mother-in-law, Patricia, announced my miscarriage at a family dinner, so I exposed her affair with my gay ex-friend in front of everyone. My name is Emma. I'm 32, and I've been married to my husband Brandon for 4 years. 3 weeks before that dinner, I lost a pregnancy I didn't even know I had until the day before. I was barely 10 weeks along. Brandon and I had just begun to wrap our heads around the shock, the happiness, the fear. We decided to wait until the second trimester to tell anyone. Then, in the middle of a workday, I started bleeding. By the time I reached the hospital, it was already over. What people don't warn you about miscarriage is the emptiness afterward. The quiet. Doctors speak gently but clinically. Your husband holds your hand but can't find words. You return home to the same space, but it feels hollow. We took a couple of days off work. We cried together, and sometimes separately. Grief felt both enormous and strangely invisible. We told no one, especially not Brandon's mother. Patricia is the kind of woman who wears cream-colored pantsuits to weddings that aren't hers and somehow makes it look intentional. She smiles without warmth. Her compliments always sting if you listen closely. When Brandon first introduced me to her, she looked me up and down and said, "Oh, how lovely." Brandon has always had eclectic taste. I felt like a decorative object, not a person. Brandon is an only child, and Patricia is a widow, which means she's always been deeply embedded in his life, too embedded. She has a spare key to our apartment. She calls daily. Once, while we were at work, she reorganized our kitchen because she disliked how we stored spices. 2 days after my miscarriage, she called to inform us, not ask, that she was hosting Sunday dinner. Brandon tried to decline. He said we weren't feeling well, that we needed a quiet weekend. Patricia steamrolled every excuse. She guilted him about being lonely, about never seeing us, about already buying ingredients for his favorite pot roast. So that Sunday, we drove to her pristine suburban home. My stomach twisted the entire way, not from physical pain, but from dread. When we arrived, I realized we weren't alone. Patricia had invited Brandon's Aunt Linda, his cousin Jennifer, and Jennifer's husband Marcus. 7 people sat around her formal dining table, crystal glasses and white linens perfectly arranged. Throughout dinner, she kept commenting on my appearance. "You look tired, Emma. Are you sure you're all right?" I smiled tightly and said work had been stressful. Brandon kept squeezing my hand under the table. Then Patricia brought out the pot roast and sat down, folding her hands. "Before we eat," she said, "I want to share something." My chest tightened immediately. She spoke about family, legacy, grandchildren. About how she'd been praying Brandon and I would give her one soon. She mentioned noticing pregnancy tests in my basket at the pharmacy. Then she casually mentioned hearing from a colleague of mine that I'd missed work due to a medical emergency. Brandon tried to stop her. She ignored him. "So I put 2 and 2 together," Patricia said, smiling that awful pitying smile. "Emma, I'm so sorry for your loss." The room went silent. Then she added, "These things happen, especially when women are stressed or don't take proper care of themselves." I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly against the floor. She looked offended. I was just being supportive. "You had no right," I said. "You turned my grief into dinner conversation." She snapped back that she was family, that we'd shut her out, that normal people don't keep secrets. Then she insulted my parents. That's when something clicked. I stayed standing. "If we're doing family announcements," I said, "I have one too." I asked if everyone knew Patricia had been spending time with my ex-friend Ryan, who came out as gay 8 years ago, who I'd introduced to her at our wedding. I explained how he'd told me she'd crossed boundaries, how she'd harassed him, threatened his career when he rejected her advances. I showed them the screenshots. Her messages. Her number. Brandon stared at the phone, stunned. The room exploded. Linda demanded answers. Jennifer gasped. Patricia screamed that it was a misunderstanding. Brandon finally said it aloud, "You sexually harassed a gay man and tried to ruin his career." Patricia threw her wine glass against the wall and screamed for us to leave. We did. 4 weeks afterward, she tried to contact us. Calls, emails, letters. We blocked everything. Eventually, she showed up at our apartment looking broken. No makeup. No armor. She said she'd started therapy. She apologized to me, to Brandon, to Ryan. She didn't excuse herself. She didn't deflect. We didn't forgive her right away. We set boundaries. Strict ones. Months later, I became pregnant again. This time, we waited. When we told Patricia, we did it privately, in public, on our terms. She cried, real tears, and agreed to every boundary without argument. And surprisingly, she followed them. Not perfectly, but genuinely. Our daughter, Claire, was born healthy. Patricia respected every rule. She stayed in therapy. She changed. 3 years later, she babysits once a week. Ryan comes to family dinners. The pain of my miscarriage hasn't vanished, but it no longer defines me. That night at dinner wasn't graceful. It wasn't noble. I wasn't trying to heal anyone. I wanted justice. And sometimes, justice looks like telling the truth out loud, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Because that night, I didn't just expose her affair. I announced that I was done being silent.